him.
Yeah,
I mean,
I mean,
most certainly it's better to play with your actual players, of course, but all things considered, they still place number 2 in their group, so I think LGD is doing just fine so far.
so far. But we'll see. I agree with you. I agree with the sentiment that nothing's going to change. But nevertheless, there is that kind of like that risk that it could. Team Aster, John, they go for a Luna pickup. Now, this is not so often that you see this hero being picked up anymore. It's rather interesting to see her being picked up by Team Aster. Do you
It
feel like this
definitely
is a good
is.
carry for this patch, or?
Mm, I'm not in this patch in general. I'm not too sure, but in the context of the picks right now, I feel like it kind of makes sense. You want something that can kind of whack Shadow Shaman's wards at the fairly safe distance just fine. You want something that doesn't really get kited by Nature's Prophet's root too much, by his trees too much, so you're pretty happy as a Luna as well. I think as long as you have vision outside, of course, you can still do something while you're sprouted up. I feel like it is a reasonable pick to make here. I'm just not sure how the hero fares in general, but considering what you're playing up against for Team Aster, it does make a bit of sense. I do like this counter pick from LGD. The Razor gonna just able to link up Luna, take all her damage away, and that could cause problems. But Aster pick up the OD, and I feel like again it's a good pick here against LGD because you have two heroes that don't really scale with int. Of course, OD punches that very hard, and I feel like it just kind of complements their lineup quite well. Good team fight, good damage coming out from that OD, and it's just a bit lacking in control, but you do have some options with the Luna and OD. It's just nothing too hard, but you do have some ways of stopping people from running. So I
Yeah,
do like this. I like how the draft is tying up for Aster, but I like the response from LGD as well. That Razor pickup against Luna seems really interesting to see.
I do have some concerns though for LGD. Like that OD pick, as it stands right now, like you haven't all these heroes that have been picked up by LGD don't have the highest of int gain. I guess as well as that, I don't feel like they have a way to deal with the OD in particular. But I guess we still have to wait for that last pickup to be made by LGD. I am though sitting here looking at Aster's draft, going, this could be interesting, right? Like there certainly seems like the draft's not that uneven between these two teams.
Definitely so. I'd say Aster's does seem a bit more exciting to watch, personally. I mean, they have a Rubik, they have the OD with the big hammer drops. It's just going to be a bit more explosive for Aster. I feel like that's how they should play. Although, for the most part, Luna does want to farm up a bit. So would the Sven eventually. He'd definitely want to farm the camps a bit. But it does look like Aster, yeah. So with that Beastmaster pickup, I feel like Aster does want to kind of get something going for themselves a bit early on. You want to hit that level 6 in Beastmaster fast, go around for ganks with your two supports, buy some space for your Luna maybe, or your OD to farm up depending on who's behind, and take towers as it goes on. I mean, you definitely spike a bit earlier as Aster, whereas LGD spikes slightly later, I feel. You'd want a few items in your Sven and your Shadow Shaman really to be terrifying while roaming around, but I feel like that early game, probably on Aster, especially the Undying, the Rubik, and the Beastmaster, LGDs has a bit more scalability in that late game, but it's not like Aster lacks in that scalability. Like you have a Luna, you have an OD. Both of these heroes scale quite well. OD does get a bit shafted by BKBs, but you have a Luna to compensate for that. That's a really hard hitting ranged carry right there, and it should be interesting how that shapes up. Although Spectre,
That's a
yeah,
that's
okay,
another hero, John. I gotta say I haven't seen in a while.
it has been a while. It's been a
And
very long time, I think.
in terms of late game, I mean, you mentioned the OD was gonna have issues once the BKB started coming up, which you know they are. Then the Luna would be kind of like the savior in that moment because she'd be hitting like a truck with those glaives as well. But then you've got a Spectre now to deal with on the side of LGD, and I mean, like I said, we haven't seen it in too long, but she essentially was the queen of late game, this pick. So, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about the draft anymore for Aster. I gotta say, LGD are looking a lot scarier now. Then again, you could be able to correct me right now, John, if I'm wrong.
It does feel a bit scary from LGD, but the one issue I have is that again it feels slightly weird. You're running a Sven and a Spectre, both in core positions this time around, looks like Mike, and that does ask for a bit. One of them's going to get slightly shafted. I feel like you're definitely going to shaft your Sven a bit in that laning phase. You're going to have to protect Ame's Spectre much more. And you want that Spectre to get a good farm, good timing on whatever first item they pick up. The Sven can always play catch up in the jungle. They just need some EXP, maybe 1 or 2 items to go into that jungle quite confidently. But the Spectre really needs to be babysat for that laning phase. I think that's going to be LGD's plan here. You have to protect Ame, whereas Aster has to apply as much pressure as they can towards that Spectre. They want to kind of shut it down, slow it down. I think one thing that Aster has to keep track of as well is that jungle. You can't allow LGD to stack up that jungle for the Sven to farm up later, or the Spectre. So you're going to have to deny these 2 heroes a farm and try to push as fast as you can with your Beastmaster.
I suppose that's the point, right? Like, if we are going to try and shut down the jungle on the side of Aster, they've got that Beastmaster available with that Hawk as well, so you've got that great scouting potential to always keep an eye on what's going on within the opposing jungle. And with that, I mean, surely they probably set up a gank, try to make something happen in those instances, but we'll keep a close eye on it, John. Nevertheless, the game has started. Move into it. Does seem like there's going to be a lot of pressure from both these teams in the early game to make sure they get the better start. Because like you said, Aster especially, they really want to be aggressive during this early game with this draft that they've picked up. In which case, if they have a bad early game, they're just never going to be able to start that aggression up, it feels.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit of a reverse snowball if Aster doesn't get that good start. Again, looks like they are planning to run an aggro try as well. So Sylar, Fenrir, and Baboka all grouping up in that bot lane. Probably to try to counteract Ame's Spectre, but, at this point, he could probably just walk up, swap lanes.
Absolutely. Might go for it. You have a Hawk actually scouting out Ame right now, but does walk back. Of course, FY has the treants running around trying to scout out the opposing heroes. Does actually scout out Aster as well, and that's why Ame ends up walking back, leaves the bounty rune for the moment. Of course, they'll go for the opposing bounty rune on the other side of the map. I guess we'll have to see if LGD continue with the dual lanes rather than also running a tri lane. And of course, John, we've got our fireworks and piglets to look at. If you look at Chalice right now, there's piggies flying around.
Ah, yes. That's always nice, bouncing them off each other, just throwing out the dragons. Well, let's see, it's almost Chinese New Year. It's going to be on Feb 5. I think it's Feb 5. At least in my country, it's Feb 5. It should be fun. And again, these guys, proper region to be casting for right now, Mike. China, closed qualifiers. Best time.
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly so. Tri lane, of course, will continue at that bot lane. Ame, he has not budged whatsoever. He seems confident enough to stick around for the moment. He will have FY there on that Nature's Prophet to help out, but Nature's Prophet, not the strongest support in the world either. So it does feel like this may be a struggle for Ame to farm up on this Spectre. I mean, if Aster are playing the lane right.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit of a rough time again. This is a tri-lane against a dual lane. You're playing against Undying and a Rubik who can apply a lot of early laning pressure on a core. So I'm not sure how much of free time Ame will have here. At the same time, Sylar, Bawoka, and Fenris XP gain will be very, very slow.
Certainly so. That's the trade-off. The side of Aster. XXS, of course, going to struggle in his own lane, it seems, for the moment. Just going to be waiting for those extra levels in the ball. He can actually kind of contest this dual lane that he's up against. But it does look, however, that Chalice will be pretty much free farming the off lane. X-Nova, of course, just going to stick around, soak XP and deny creeps, but giving Sven free farm is also going to be very problematic. It's like Aster, they kind of have to choose which one they care about more. The Spectre, yeah, she's scary in the late game, but that's Sven. He's scary in the mid and late game.
Yeah, it's a fair enough point. I feel like Aster's really just prioritizing slowing down Spectre because Spectre has a harder time playing catch-up. If you shut down a Sven, they can always just go jungle again, just a few stacks here and there, and presto, you're going to cleave through all those creeps in very fast time as long as you have the EXP. Whereas the Spectre really just doesn't naturally farm too fast, so as long as you keep this Spectre shut down on bot lane, I think Aster should be in a better spot to keep it shut down.
XXS, top lane, probably going to be the first blood. Chalice, he will find the final right click and he will get the kill for himself. Was X-Nova. He was there with the shackles, and Chalice just follows up with the stun, and it was a pretty easy kill. A couple body blocks coming up from the Shadow Shaman as well. Again, it's very important for the Dire side to make sure they get that great start, so they can't really afford to give too many kills away, especially if they are being given the way of Chalice. John, as well as that, like those last hits on the Sven right now, 13 last hits with 6 denies, like that is not the greatest of news. For the Dire side anyway.
Definitely so. Again, you're really sacrificing your top lane for the bot lane here for Aster. You kept Ame pretty much in check for the most part, but again, you're sacrificing. You're basically having this Sven compensate for it. So, I think Aster is choosing that trade-off.
I mean, they've run the tri lane now though. X-Nova rotates around and he's just hiding in the tree line, and it doesn't look like Aster are really aware, although now they will be. X-Nova will just start the right clicks off. Chalice, he will be 1v1 up against XXS, but it seems like they're rather confident now that he will just be able to solo this lane. I mean, he is just so darn far ahead of XXS in terms of farm anyway. And he has plenty of regen left as well, like 4 tangos, 1 salve sitting in the backpack. LGD, like, they really played around with Aster, and I mean, now they're running the same tri lane, but it seems like they've got a bigger advantage.
Definitely so. I think in a tri lane like this, you're a bit happier if you're LGD because you've already got a slight XP advantage on your 2 heroes, whereas Aster has been shafted for minute 0 running this tri lane, so that XP has been split up pretty hard, especially in heroes again like Rubik and Undying who really want their levels fast. It's going to affect how well they can really pressure this lane.
So, of course, the last lane we haven't really mentioned at all yet. The mid lane, XM versus the OD being played by Lover. I mean, I suppose I didn't mention it, John, because it is going to be a bit of a farm fest in the mid lane for a while anyway, but it's been pretty even. The Razor just slightly ahead by 2 last hits for the moment, but Lover does seem to be able to keep up quite easily, and I suppose as an OD as well, the higher levels you get, the easier it just becomes to farm in the laning phase, thanks to that Astral Imprisonment, and it does seem like Lover is starting to abuse that quite heavily.
Yeah, definitely so. I feel like this matchup is fairly even again. Razor can threaten a bit every time Static Link is off cooldown as well, so it's really just trading when each one is stronger. And yeah, it's a fairly even mid lane. I think as the game goes on, though, you really have to watch out for the Razor, for his positioning. If you're not careful, I mean, you're not going to do damage as an OD if he catches you out just right. So
Bot lane.
You'll have to watch out.
Henry moving forward onto FY. They can't find the pickup, and now they might lose their Rubik. Baboka still alive throughout all this, but he will end up falling. X-Nova with the salve. He barely survives with 25 HP. That salve actually providing just enough regen for him to survive, and he will make a run back to the base. He won't bother shrining up by himself. Very nice play again coming out from LGD.
Yeah, really nice play coming out from him. They secure a kill and they force the lanes to kind of get mucked up a bit while we were fighting over there. Now, Fenrir will have to walk back. He's out of HP, out of mana. It just kind of slows down the XP progression for these 2 supports who really need it, and it also kind of just interrupts the farm of Sylar just a bit. So, pretty good move there from LGD, and you know, you're starting to see Ame. He's actually not too far behind. He's like, what, 2 CS, 4 CS off of Sylar in the lane that had a tri-lane against the Spectre. He's doing really well, all things considered, Mike.
Yeah, certainly so. Like, it feels like Ame hasn't really had a bad lane whatsoever. In fact, he hasn't. Aster's tri-lane, like you said, like, it starved them of XP, but it hasn't really done the job. LGD, they're going to be more than happy with that. While mid lane, we did see a bit of action previously. It does seem like FY has started being very annoying on that Nature's Prophet. In fact, he does go for the Sprout onto Sylar. He does chop down the tree, however, with the Quelling Blade, excuse me, it was a Tango, in fact. And he will just walk his way out. But that's just one thing you've got to be really afraid of. Like, that Nature's Prophet, just going to be TPing around all around the map, trying to make those ganks happen. Though I say that, they do lift him up and drop the Tombstone, and FY, he does end up getting dropped very quickly. Now X-Nova being chased down, he also ends up going down to Sylar. And suddenly, they overextend just a bit, and Aster punished them quite heavily.
Yeah, really good punishment there from Aster, although I think, again, these are 2 targets you don't really want to clear out. This Shadow Shaman, he Nature's Prophet aren't the biggest targets in the world, you really want to keep a lid on Ame. And again, while all these kills are happening, Ame's still catching up in CS, Mike. He's now second place right behind her Sven, and suddenly overtaking most of the course on the Dire side, actually. So, if you're Aster, if your plan was to shut down Ame, I can't say it's worked out.
Well, mid lane, they are trying to shut down the side of LGD once again. FY, he got taken down, but he buys back. X-Nova comes in with the shackles. He gets sanitied. And now FY, got to be careful not to die back throughout all this. Silent making a run for it, though. Lover, he stuck around too long, and Chalice has rotated. Though nice Astral Imprisonment will come out from him. FY still going for it. A nice ward placement and Sprout. He still can't find the damage, however. And Lover will make his way out. Baboka does rotate around as the Rubik. But again, another win from Aster.
Yeah, pretty close win, though. Like, it was almost bad if they managed to find that kill onto Lover. Of course, that would have been a very big kill. Instead, he gets away with 2 kills, Mike, and if you are Lover, you're going to be very happy with that sort of rotation for LGD. They committed the buyback on FY. It's going to slow him down just a tad bit on his itemization, just a bit. But, you know, that is still a significant amount to throw in for pretty much something that just gave OD a spare kill.
Yeah, absolutely.
Bottom tower
It's like top lane. FY has made his way around. Chalice is there. There are some Treants and Illusions behind the tree line, but it doesn't look like they're really going to go for the kill up top onto Sylar. Rather, they are going to go back mid lane. FY again gets the sprout off. Now Arme just hit level 6. Will go for the ulti, but they will not find the OD. But Lover, he TP'd back to his tier 1 tower. He will actually be okay, but he's still going to walk back to the fountain. He can't go back to the shrine right now because X-Nova's waiting for him, and Aether Shock was used first. He either wanted that Hex or Shackle John, but rather he just pressed the Q, and unfortunately it made it so Lover could just walk away, although Baboka won't be so lucky at that, well, still the mid lane. He will end up going down. And at the very least, they do waste more of Lover's time with that rotation from X-Nova. In fact, they are going to go for that mid tower now. But X-Nova, he's not even level 6 yet, so they're kind of pressuring without the Serpent Wards available. And it does look like X-Nova is probably going to rotate, although Chalice comes in, gets the Stormhammer off, now got Strength as well, and it does look like this Undying will just be dead. Fenrir goes down for another 15 seconds or so. Kisses coming up from X-Nova. But they are going to continue this aggression around the map at the very least for LGD.
I feel like, you know, with how good a start LGD's had, I think they can get away with that. I think the key thing for LGD is basically, you know, make sure Ame has a free enough time, which he has, for the most part, even if he was facing off against Trillian. And you kind of make sure that the Luna's kept in slight check, which they haven't really done too much with. At this point, Sylar isn't quite there yet, where he's ready to really just AFK farm the jungle. So it will be a bit of time until that is a threat. So I think LGD does have that opening to just kind of go around, look for kills, pressure around the map, and really give Ame some space.
I mean, you just talked about Sylar being able to get that farmed on. They just took him out with Chalice and XM rotating around at that top lane. No real vision from the Dire end at that top lane either. So I mean, he'd never know they were coming, and now they're just going to start hitting up on that tier 1 top tower. Bit of a mistake possibly from Aster to not have the vision up top lane to really protect that Luna.
Yeah, again, I think the key thing for Aster is to make sure Sylar has a good time. And, well, he's not had a bad time, but he's starting to fall down just a bit in this 11-minute mark. And you really don't want to be too far behind, especially since LGD does have 2 farm-heavy cores. So you want to be on top of that if you are Aster, because your power spike is a bit earlier. Although it does look like Sylar opted for a much more farm-oriented build, skipping Eclipse entirely. He's not going to be joining team fights until maybe at least level 7 or level 8 even.
Blink Dagger already coming up on Chalice. He does actually rotate down. Fenrir gonna be the one that gets stunned up, and now they will know the blink is there. FY, they do all back off onto the side of LGD. They saw XXS there, and they possibly thought there was more heroes behind him. But they won't go for the kill onto Fenrir. So with that quick blink on the Sven, I mean, this is going to be real problematic for Aster. Because again, they're not the aggressors in this game right now. LGD is, and it looks like they don't plan to stop anytime soon.
Yeah, definitely. So, definitely. So there is a smoke out in X Nova and Chalice. Again, with that blink, it's just a very easy setup for a kill.
Go with this. The OD hasn't shown himself lover. They will actually go for a smoke of their own. So, looks like they might find Sylar out on that Luna, but he does have help in the backlines. They blink in straight onto the Luna. Arme falling very low. The Shackle's in there by X-Nova. The heals and Astral comes out. The Roar as well onto Razor in the backlines, and the chase continues. X-Nova goes down, and so does XM. And meanwhile, Fenry is making the chase onto Arme, the only man left at that top lane. In fact, I say that, but Chalice is still around, and he does go for the Stormhammer in the backlines. Gets Sylar, FY with the ulti. It comes through, and it's a lot of damage. The dagger as well, but Boca will go down. Can they find any more? Fenrir, he will decay, but he is pretty tanky for the side of LGD to take down, so rather they will go for Lover instead. He goes for the TP attempt. I'm not sure about that one. The Hex is there from X-Nova, and now Fenrir also goes down. A great start to that team fight, but they end up losing 4 heroes on their own side, and meanwhile, XM just sitting pretty in that mid lane and just farming up.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what happened there. It looked pretty good for Aster. Excuse me. It looked pretty good for Aster in that first half, especially when the smokes just met up at that dire shrine up top. But I guess they might have overextended a bit too much, split their targets up a bit too much after those pretty nice pickoffs early on and turning that gank around. It just, yeah, I think they were looking for far more than they could have handled at that point. And, you know, that, again, gives LGD an opening they could exploit.
Bit of a rough stun from Chalice there in the mid lane. I think he wanted to stun up XXS, but rather he got the ball. That turning point, though, during that team fight, I mean, we saw Chalice reinitiate with that Blink Dagger he just picked up, but you saw the Wrath of Nature come out from FY as well, and the damage it did to the opposing heroes, it was... I guess they weren't expecting the Wrath of Nature to do that much damage, but it did end up doing that much, and Chalice, he just cleaned up. Of course, X-Nova was there with the rotation as well.
Yeah, I mean, that was just some really good bounces coming out from that Nature's Prophet. And it does take a bit of luck. You're never sure if you're going to have enough bounces left by the time it reaches to, you know, the area where the fight is at. But when it does some considerable damage, especially as seen in that last team fight.
Look at LGD again, just looking for another hero they can pick off. Keeping these deep wards on the side of Aster's jungle. So it does look like they have been de-warding on the side of Aster. Of course, that is so they can protect that jungle or the Luna to be able to farm up. And Sylar continues to do so with the Mask of Madness. FY, he goes for a Dagon build. So now a Dagon 1 up on the support FY, Nature's Prophet. He has gone on top of the cliff as well. I believe he'll be able to spot out Sylar, the Baboka, also walking past. FY, what's the plan here? What's he up to? Boca realizing he probably needs to actually defend, although Chalice just jumps in. God's Strength was there, and Baboka steals the stun, throws it back his way. XM gonna make the link and the chase, and he will find the support Rubik. Meanwhile, Fenrir does drop the Tombstone and does come in, but it feels like there's gonna be no way to defend this tier 2 tower now. The Serpent Wards were also committed, and in map control, again, being taken by the Radiant side.
Yeah, and again, that early game window for Aster grows smaller and smaller. I feel like you're starting to lose a considerable amount of map control. You've really not kept, you know, Ame in check. You've not kept the Sven in check, so you're really just starting to lose your early game power spike. You're going to have to be depending on Rubik to steal some pretty amazing spells and some really well-coordinated team fights coming out from Aster to kind of turn this around. One good team fight would be enough. I think as long as you get all the targets you need, you want to take off Ame at least once, and maybe Chalice's Sven has grown a bit too big. I just don't see Aster going for that aggressive play. They've been much more safe. They've been farming up their jungle, and it's really been LGD that's been all over the map so far, so I'm not quite sure if Aster can keep LGD in check by playing passively this long, especially against the 2 farming heroes that LGD does have.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like, they're still slightly ahead of that Spectre in terms of farm, but that's only going to last so long. The Spectre is, of course, going after that Radiance build, and once the Radiance is up, things become a hell of a lot harder for the side of Aster. Even that, even the mischance that comes in from that Radiance, like, that's going to be a real problem, considering Aster has a lot of right-clicking heroes. See how it all pans out. Pipe does come out on XXS. So Vladimir's and Pipe ready to go on this Beastmaster. It's like you said, they can't farm forever on the Dire side. They've got to win some kind of team fight. And I suppose maybe they're just waiting for LGD to be a bit too aggressive and maybe overextend, like they did in the early stages of the game.
Yeah, it does seem like that is what they're waiting for. I mean, you know, they haven't had XXS build a blink, so really have no instant lockdown tool on their hand. Whereas for the most part, if you want to be active in that early game, as a Beastmaster, you have that fast blink, you have the Necrobooks come out. But it's much more defensive coming out from XXS this time around. That Vlad's, that Pipe really just helping to keep survivability up and maybe keep that... Ooh.
Lava got caught out. The ulti was there. It looks like they were trying to go for a rotation onto Arme bot lane, but, well, he did actually ulti out, but now he goes back down. Arme, he does. He would be perfectly fine, because there is a smoke going on top lane. Aster trying to find XM. Raw is available. They will get the Raw off, of course, and with that, it should be a fairly easy kill, considering the rotations were already made prior. Aster get themselves a nice pick off onto the Razor.
I'm surprised XM even died there. The Haunt came out while the smoke was popped, and there were a couple of pings coming out as well that the smoke was there, because the Haunt illusions were just chasing nothing, so it was pretty obvious. I'm not sure why XM decided to stay around there. It was a bit of a risk, but a free pick off for them. And I guess, you know, all things considered, not the worst loss. I mean, the Razor is kind of a valuable target, but it's not like losing your Sven, losing your Spectre. The Razor's pretty much okay with a couple of items, and he has been farming fine, so XM shouldn't be feeling too bad about that.
Radiant's top tower is under
Let's see a
attack.
tier 1 tower trade. Top and bot lane, both being lost on either side. But neither team seems too upset about that. Aster especially probably very happy with the fact that they can just trade a tier 1 tower right now with the side of LGD. Again, they will go back to farming for Aster. Rotating around to that mid lane now, it seems. Perhaps they could pick somebody off, and Chalice is there. The XXS, he does not have that Roar available, but he will in about 5 seconds or so. As well as that, with that Pipe, they may feel confident enough to go for a team fight. LGD, they will not take the bait, and they will back off to safety. With that, another tier 1 being taken by the side of Team Aster this time around.
Yeah, I think that's a fair move from LGD. They didn't have their ultimates up, no God Strength up, no Haunt up, obviously because they were popped earlier on, so can't really hold the defense in that area, at least not confidently from LGD, and I feel like that's a safe call to make. And both teams have been playing kind of safe for the past few minutes now, just slowed it down just a tad. The aggression from LGD definitely has tapered down. I think they're really just waiting for Ame to finish up that Radiance, which is almost up, just about 500 gold away. And once that's up, I think the next taunt will be pivotal for LGD.
Certainly so. As well as that Radiance coming out onto Arme, the BKB now available in XM as well on that Razor. Keep an eye out for that one. Aster, they have smoked up themselves on that Beastmaster and Baboka, and who are they going to find? FY apparently will be the target, although he's a bit too far away to actually get the Roar off on. Now, the Haunt comes in, and Arme goes straight after Baboka. Chalice is there as well, and this is going to be a whitewash. XXS trying to make a run for it. Fenry actually drops in as well. I'm not sure you should throw more heroes into this team fight, because the rest of the LGD are around and ready to go. They chase down XXS, and they get the kill, and with that, they'll find another support with Fenry on that Undying, and 3 go down for the side of Aster.
Yeah, really clean team fight from LGD. I mean, just really clean pick-offs from them. I'm not sure if it was worth going back as the Undying to try to save your allies there. I definitely think Fenrir... I mean, he was trying to help. Obviously, you want to help your Beastmaster get out. It's just that I don't think you really have too much of an impact in that situation when your Beastmaster already popped his ultimate, when he's being chased by 5 heroes. You really can't do too much.
With that, I had a quick look at the Luna farm. Sylar, he is top of the net worth board right now. About 500 gold in front of Chalice on that Sven. The Sylar still doing his job on that Luna, just farming up. Almost has enough gold for the full BKB. In fact, he does now pick it up, and he gets a TP for himself. And with that, they may go for another smoke rotation on the side of Aster. We'll have to keep an eye out and see if they do choose to do so. Because Arme also has a Radiance come up, and FY, he gets a 4-star for himself. So, a lot of items coming up, but I guess the big ones are the BKBs and the fact that Arme now gonna have that Radiance. Not only is he gonna be farming faster, but even in those team fights, it is gonna be a fair bit of damage and gonna be fairly annoying missing those shots. LGD. Go for a smoke now. Chalice also having the Echo Saber up and almost having his full BKB up. Just needs the recipe. Smoke on smoke action, though Aster will have the high ground for the moment, but LGD, they think better of running up that way and they run the other way now. Aster, I'm not sure if they spotted that out, but they are running the correct way if they're chasing LGD right now. In fact, the Roshan has begun for the side of LGD, and Aster, I'm not sure if they're aware of this. In fact, they're not. They're waiting in that mid lane. Roshan is left alone. It was just the Treants that got involved, and a very nice scan comes out from LGD. I'm not sure how they even guess, although I guess Silent perhaps farming, maybe an indication that there was a smoke behind him. XXS. The Beastmaster spots that XM. Wrath of Nature does come out from FY. Sprout being used for vision as well, and looking for that Hawk, of course. That Arme continuing to push at the top lane, probably going to force Aster back. Aster got to make a decision as to whether they're going to defend or whether they're going to fight, and it looks like they will choose to defend. But maybe not, because Arme has started with the Haunt. Who are they even chasing right now?
They tried to pick off Baboka. The Dagon went off, just not enough damage. I think the Plasma Field was just about to hit Baboka on the return, but he managed to TP out, so got away there. That was first Radiance Haunt. The game, of course, a bit of a missed opportunity from LGD, I have to say. I think if they did it before Sylar TP'd home, that might have been a bit more successful.
Oh, Aster. Understanding the Haunt is no longer available, they'll go for a warding mission, and they will actually get started on the Roshan. They have made it fairly obvious, though, that they are in that Roche pit, and LGD immediately moved their way in. Wrath of Nature was there as well. Aster not taking the Roshan very fast at all, and LGD are 100% going to contest this. Aster, however, do not back off. Sprout will be there onto Sylar, still no initiation quite yet. I think it is up to Chalice, and there's the God Strength and the jump in, and Chalice ripping them apart right now. A Roar does come out, but he's already BKB'd up, so they can't really throw anything else Chalice's way. He'll chase down Sylar and gets the pick off onto him. XXS, meanwhile, being chased down by Arme, and that Radiance burn already kicking in. In fact, FY TPing in just in case. He does find Baboka, but they've got no way to cancel the TP. But who cares about that when you've got a free Roshan to take?
Yeah, a bit. I'd have to say that's a bit sloppy coming out from Aster. I mean, they knew they were going to be chumped. I think the one issue is that Lover did try to Astral Sylar to keep him safe. The issue was Sylar already had static link up on him, so even if he survived that initial burst, he wasn't going to do any damage in that team fight, and he was trying to run away, but there's really not much you can do there unless you want to pop Eclipse, but that's a very big spell to commit in a team fight you're already losing. So I think that was the right move from Sylar to not expend that, just save it for the next team fight. Again, I'm just not sure how you save the Luna in that situation. Do you try to Astral her to save her from the burst damage, but, you know, risk her losing all her damage while she's static linked? Or do you just kind of throw it to the wind and hope Sylar manages to run out?
What do you think was the reasoning for the Roshan attempt right there? Because they didn't really have any good defensive wards, so they couldn't really spot out LGD coming down. Although LGD made it very obvious and they still went for it. Like, they did not back off whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm really not too sure what to say there from Astral. I'm not sure what the game plan was, except for trying to threaten Roche. I don't think they really have enough tools to take it down safely. Again, they don't have any big gap closing items on heroes that need it, like Blink on Beastmaster's not being there.
A very fast BKB. Chalice was initiating in with the stun, and man, that was some quick fingers on that BKB, my goodness. Otherwise, he probably almost definitely would have been dead on the Luna. The God Strength, of course, was used, and he did have backup there, but he does get away.
I wonder if it's a bigger win for LGD or for Aster to pop these BKBs like that. I'm starting to think it's a bit more pertinent for Aster to have those longer BKBs. Sure, you're going to be scared of that OD as the late game goes on and your BKBs are lower, but at the same time, I feel like as long as you take out that Luna really fast when that BKB is low, it's going to be harder for Aster to play without the Luna than it is for LGD to play without Sven.
XXS getting caught out. The Sprout is there. He does go for the TP, and he will make it. Just barely. XM, I don't believe that last attack actually finished the animation. Is why the damage didn't really register. But he does barely manage to get away from the side of LGD. But, I mean, you kind of talked about the BKBs being wasted on the side of Aster. Not only that, but they've lost map control and they're losing a lot of time to get that farm up now. Like LGD, they're just taking over this whole map. I mean, with that, like, you can escape as much as you want on the side of Aster, but if you can't get any farm or XP going for your side, losing the game is pretty much just inevitable.
Yeah, again, I think the issue here is that, sure, Aster has the lead in terms of the top two in net worth right now, but they don't have a considerable lead at this point in the game, and I think where Luna really shines is having, you know, one big item ahead of the enemy core. The gold gap is not quite enough to have one item bigger than, say,
Lava has been caught out again. They will take him down as well. XM picks up that kill for himself, and Baboka gets taken out by Chalice. So much damage coming out of this Sven, and with that, I mean, that's just a tier 2 tower taken. Like, they've got the Serpent Wards available on the Shadow Shaman as well. It's like, what the hell can you even do? In fact, LGD may as well go for a tier 3 tower with those Serpent Wards right now. Why the hell not? You've got that OD down for 40 seconds. At the very least, you could force a buyback. And LGD, they know how much more... I mean, how much stronger, how much more farm they are than the side of Aster. And with that, they do drop the Serpent Wards. They'll get started on the tier 3 tower. Chalice immediately jumps in the backlines with the stun onto XXS. But it was more like a warning shot, and it gave time for the tier 3 to be taken. And now the melee racks as well, being focused down by the side of LGD. And Aster, there's just nothing they can do about this.
Yeah, there's no way they can get a decent defense going without that OD, and I don't think you really want to expend your buyback with that few time left on your respawn timer. So they will just have to give up a set of racks just like that, and LGD is looking really scary at this point, Mike. You have a heart up on Ame, he still has Aegis for a few more minutes. I feel like if you're Aster right now, you really can't force a fight, but you're going to need to defend your objectives somehow.
Certainly so. That we can't deny. As it stands, like, doesn't feel like they have what it doesn't feel like they have the heroes they need to take a team fight against LGD. I mean, apart from the fact that they're just being out farmed, apart from Sylar. You look at the 3 cores of LGD, and they're 2nd, 3rd, and 4th right now on that net worth graph. Sylar just dying way too fast in these team fights to actually get anything done. In fact, have we even seen an Eclipse being used yet? I don't feel like we have.
No. I feel like we haven't yet. No. Definitely not. I mean, it made sense earlier on to kind of save it, but, you know, he does need to really pop it. It's a lot of his DPS, just not in the fight when you don't use that spell.
I mean, we're 30 minutes in now. The Shrine top lane is being taken. So again, that jungle not going to be safe whatsoever if it wasn't already for the side of Aster. LGD will continue pushing out that top lane with the Treants. Side of Aster, they have started focusing on the opposite side of their side of the map. But you've got so many heroes that require that farm, and well, they're not really sharing too well. Aster, they go for a smoke. MKB will come up onto Sylar. They want to go for a surprise showing, although FY, he picked up a Hex as well, so the Scythe device is up and they go for the Roar. They have found XM, but look at Chalice with the stun onto 4 heroes. XXS copying so much damage, and Fenrir, he's already gone. Lover, meanwhile, in the back lines with the BKB, but he's going to get taken out. XXS also being chased down by Ame, and he'll be taken out as well. 4 heroes down for the side of Aster that quickly, John.
Yeah, I mean, that's just really good counter initiation coming out from LGD, and Mike, I don't know, you have issues when your OD is taken out by the Shadow Shaman, just basically the 2 supports stunning you up. get wiped. It's not a good sign.
Speaking of stuns, they got one off onto Luna, and she's dead. That's a dieback on... Yeah, and they call GG. They understand they cannot continue this game, especially without that Luna. I mean, that's basically the only farm they have. With that, the game's over. LGD just takes it.
I mean, it's hard playing against LGD, you know, literally the top 2, top 1 team, some people would argue, team in the world, and even with a sub, and it's still LGD no matter what. Aster did try. I think they need to clean up their game plan a bit and clean up their draft just a bit. If they want, if they want to execute a certain plan, it does have to go through quite well, especially against a team like LGD might.
Yeah, certainly so. I mean, nobody's surprised by this, the outcome for game number 1. I can definitely say, but certainly you would hope that like the next game, Aster would probably be slightly closer at the very least. Nevertheless, we will find out. LGD vs Aster game number 2 of this best of 3 will be coming up in just a few moments. Please stick around. We'll be back with you in just a second, guys.